It feels like since the start of the year, PC games have been having a really rough run. Whether it be the release of Wild Hearts, The Last of Us, or most recently Jedi Survivor, it hasn't been the best time to be part of the PC master race. When I was playing Jedi Survivor, I was having flashbacks to being on my $500 JB Hi-Fi computer, wondering why I couldn't run and record Minecraft as well as the Syndicate project did. I'm not even joking, it ran that badly that I genuinely thought I needed to build a new computer. So after finishing Survivor, I decided to have a look and see if I could actually try and find an answer for why the PC ports are doing so terribly this year. And the more I looked into it, the less it seems like I could actually find. It just seemed like more dead ends than actual answers. So instead, I went back to the EA statement that was released when the reports of how terribly Jedi Survivor was running actually made it to them to see what they had to say about the situation. Immediately in this statement, it seems like they are trying to put some kind of spin on it by putting in the statement that the PC performance issues are only impacting a percentage of PC players. And to be fair, it's definitely a percentage of PC players. Based on the Steam reviews, it seems like it's about 44% of the PC players. They also go on to say that basically the reason that it's not working that well is because your PC is bottlenecking, so it's actually your fault. For people who don't know what bottlenecking is, think of your graphics card as a bottle of water and your CPU as a cup. The bottle is big because it's very powerful, but the CPU is small because you're a tight ass. When you buy a cheaper CPU, it normally means that you have a less powerful one. So when your big graphics card is sending all of its power to your small CPU, it can't handle it, and eventually your CPU won't be able to process the power from your graphics card correctly. And that's what bottlenecking is. Now, for whatever reason, EA just assumes that everyone playing their game is an idiot and hasn't actually built their PC correctly so that their graphics card isn't matched up correctly with their CPU. Normally, if you're going out of your way to build a computer, you know this, so you know to make sure that this doesn't happen. Especially if you've bought a pre-built gaming computer, typically you won't run into this issue, so I don't really see how that's a very valid excuse. To me, it feels like, as they go on to say, they don't really know what is causing the issues, so they're just trying to grab an example of something that they can give out to ease people's minds. I don't know how well it's working, because it just makes me think that they don't know what they're saying. EA then went on to do, and I don't think I mentioned it enough in the video I made on it, 100GB patch, by the way. 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 When I see 100GB patch, yay! A 100GB patch on day 5 to try and resolve these performance issues, which maybe I got an extra couple of frames out of. So still trying to find an answer to this, I ended up seeing an explanation on CBR, which was basically saying the reason that the console to PC games don't work that well is because they weren't designed to be put onto PC, and the performance issues are to be expected for something like that, which in the case of Jedi Survivor, I think is more of an excuse than a fact. When a game is scheduled to be released on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, all on the one date, that right there is a plan for PC players to be able to get their hands on the game and play it on PC. You cannot tell me that you didn't expect PC players to play it when it's listed on Steam. Turning around in this situation and saying that the game wasn't supposed to be played on PC is such a cop-out. At that point, trying to frame it like the PC performance is so bad because putting it onto PC was just an afterthought for a same-day release, that is just a blatant lie. And look, to be fair, I'll be the first to admit that I don't know that much about the inner workings of a computer. I know more than your mum, but that's about it. What I do know though is that a more expensive graphics card, CPU, and RAM means more power for your computer to run programs, like a video game. A reason that this article gave for why the PC performance might be so bad is because people run cheap PC setups, which is true. On this piece of shit, I could barely run Counter-Strike when a smoke bomb was dropped, but when you have a setup like Hutch's, who is running an AMD 7950X CPU and a 4090 graphics card, which the entire computer at that point, just based on 2 components alone, is valued at 3,700 Australian dollars. When you've got a setup like that and your game is still chugging bad, I don't think that the blame can purely be set on your PC isn't good enough. Another answer to this question comes from makeuseof.com, where they say that on launch, the game can be so buggy because on console, there's a shared pool of graphics and system memory, whereas on PC, there isn't that. Being only slightly more tech savvy than your mum, I can't understand understand why that would be such a big issue, especially when he refers to a PC having a dedicated graphics card, which makes it sound like that would be an improvement than it not being dedicated. To me, that makes it sound like it should have a better time running, but again, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. Another point brought up in this article is that consoles all have the same components, which then means that developers are fully aware of what they are, they know the limitations, and they know how to push them to just the right amount to be able to give the player the best experience possible. That makes sense. A game that is made for console and then ported over to PC, it entirely makes sense that it wouldn't be able to perform as well as a PC-made game. But for same-day releases, sure, make it as good as you can on console, but recently it just feels like the PC version of these games are kind of just getting forgotten about. And from a lot of what I've seen, it seems to always be coming back to this point, that it was made for console, and console and PC are so different that they just aren't able to make the same product the exact same way. Which, that may just be the definitive answer, and that's fine. That's the bottom line of something. You can talk to somebody who wants to quit their job, and they can give you 100 reasons for why they want to quit it, and then when you tell them to do it, they might always come back to the same point of, yeah, but I need the money. That's what it feels like here. This just seems like it's kind of just we'd love to make it perfect, but we really can't. Reviewers are normally not a very good source of information, and that seems in itself like it shouldn't be a true statement, but it kinda is. When you think of game and movie reviewers, they often get advanced screenings or advanced copies of games or movies, and to keep up those business relationships and to just continue receiving this nice treatment, they're not gonna go out of their way and say something that is going to upset the people who treated them so nicely. And in most cases, games will get a minimum of a 7. Even Pyrocynical spoke about something similar to this when talking about a sponsorship that he was offered for the game Dead Island 2, and what the expectations were for receiving such special treatment like that.
When I was talking to them, I said like, okay, well, I can sponsor the game, but like, if the game's shit, I'm probably gonna do a follow-up video where I just roast the game. And they're like, oh no, you're not allowed to do that. And it's like, what? So I've just got to say it's good and nothing else? Because there's a difference between like just saying download or buy something and then also giving your personal experiences and saying that it's good when it isn't, because that's just lying.
But with Jedi Survivor, the issues were that bad that even though they were given an advanced copy, Video Game Chronicles review included a couple of lines such as, screen tearing was a regular occurrence, and the game also seemed to struggle to load in certain areas, forcing us to wait at the door of the salon while it struggled to populate the interior. I also had this while playing the game, and it did kind of rip me out of the immersion and just make me think, do I need to Alt F4 because is the game broken? Why am I just standing in these eyes looking at me for so long? I feel like a solution to this problem, or at least something that will give studios a head start on fixing performance issues, is having an open public beta testing. This is something that games like Call of Duty have been doing for years, and you rarely hear about problems with those games when they launch. I could be comparing apples and oranges here, but I feel like if EA had even just given the people who pre-ordered the game at least one mission to beta test, Jedi Survivor would not have been released in the state that it was. Just to cap this off, I want to read this Reddit comment that I found, just to help put everything that I said in perspective. This comment comes from Logical Parking and says, I put a few years in the gaming industry as a full stack team lead. Bad code has a deeper root issue. Money. Everything is done on impossibly tight deadlines, so we had to make crappy code work just because of deadlines and corporate pressure. I'm not denying the plethora of bad programmers, but they're generally carried hard by the people who actually put in proper work. I don't think the answer to this problem is putting programmers and developers into a crunch period just so that they can deliver a game that runs at an acceptable standard. I don't even want to see the Respawn team doing overtime to try and fix Jedi Survivor. As Logical said, on the whole, this is not the fault of the programmers. This is the fault of the companies that set such tight deadlines to get something done which reasonably cannot be delivered in such a short amount of time. I know we're getting a little bit Hassan Parker on this one, blaming all the companies for everything, but just stay with me, alright? I personally think that the people developing these games, on the whole, are doing it because they want to see something done well. And like I said in the video, the last third of that story was really good. I really enjoyed it. You don't get something like that from people who are just putting in their time. This is something that I saw as well when I was looking at Alan Wake's behind the scenes to see how that got made. You could see all of the people there genuinely cared about what they're doing. And it may not be true, but I would like to think that the majority of the creative team in most games are like that. They're passionate about what they're doing and they want to see something delivered well. Most people get into a creative field because they give a shit about what they're doing. And it sucks to see that sometimes these people just get screwed over by things completely out of their control. I can't speak so much for Wild Hearts or The Last of Us because, well, didn't play those games. But for Jedi Survivor, it just seems like the fault of this game being released the way it is entirely on EA. And before you say I can't be blaming them because they work just as hard, their logo is in the logo of the game. That is fair enough to be able to say these people are proud of this product that they put out, and the product that they put out day one was shit. It ran terribly. On console, apparently it was fine. What is wrong with pushing a game back if it's not finished? I am not blaming the $40,000 a year wage slave that worked on this game. I'm blaming the people that when you look at this logo and you see the company that has inserted themselves into that logo, you Google them, those are the people responsible for why this is shit. I do not know how this made its way through quality checking and they still managed to say this is fine to put out because people aren't going to care. You're talking about Star Wars. This is one of the worst fan bases to ever exist. Half of them are great. The other half forced an Asian woman off of Instagram because she was Asian and a woman. And I know every Andrew Tate enjoyer who just heard me say that is thinking, yeah, I bet you liked the sequels, didn't you? Rey Skywalker, what a fucking stupid point. I agree with you, but I don't think that the way an actor portrays the character that they did not write should justify the amount of hatred that they receive. Jake Lloyd stopped working in cinema after The Phantom Menace. Hayden Christensen only just came back because people turned on the prequels, and I can't even remember her name, but poor Rose got entirely sidelined by episode 9 because some people in the Star Wars community haven't felt a woman's touch and just wanted that pain to go on to somebody else. You are the worst people. But also, I'm right there with you. I love these movies, but Jesus Christ, that doesn't excuse the fact that this game sucks. I don't know how I got there. I do not know how EA didn't see a product that wasn't working as intended and they didn't think to themselves, yeah, maybe we'll hold off. And the argument that they didn't know that it was in this bad of a state before it was released is bullshit, considering they had a day 0, a day 1, and a day 5 patch, which for the day 5, I don't know if I've said this enough, was 100 gigabytes. You cannot tell me in good faith, with the amount of effort that has been put into fixing this game even before it came out, that they didn't know that there was a problem here. This game should not have been released in the current state, and it's only going to keep happening unless something changes. Because at the moment, there is only just people yelling on Twitter, and I know that I was just yelling before. That was about the Star Wars fan base. I'm not talking about the company, but the company sucks. I think it needs to change over to people giving constructive criticism back rather than just saying, this is shit, let me refund it. The refunds are definitely gonna send a message to EA. This is just going to keep happening unless something changes in the industry, and it desperately needs to. I really hope I got that message across because, Jesus, that took a left turn there for a minute. I hope you enjoyed this massive ad for my playthrough of Jedi Survivor, which you can go watch on the channel. You can watch it now, actually. You can watch it right after this video. You ready? You ready to go watch it? All right, here it comes. It's hopefully gonna pop up on one of these two on the left or right. You ready? You ready? See you later. Bye.